What if the reason people underestimate you is the exact reason they'll never see you coming? Think about the quietest person you've ever met. Chances are, they weren't the least aware person in the room. They were the most aware. While everyone else was trying to be heard, they were watching, listening, connecting dots nobody else noticed. And here's the unsettling part. If you've always been the person who observes more than you speak, you may have spent years believing it was a weakness, when in reality, it could be one of your greatest psychological strengths. Most people grow up believing that confidence sounds loud. The students who answer first are called smart. The coworkers who speak the most are seen as leaders. Social media rewards instant opinions, quick reactions, and constant updates. Everywhere you look, the message is the same. If you're not talking, you're falling behind. But have you ever noticed how the loudest people often miss what's happening right in front of them? They're busy planning what to say next. They're focused on being noticed. Meanwhile, you're noticing everyone else, the subtle hesitation before someone answers, the smile that doesn't quite reach their eyes, the shift in someone's tone when a certain name comes up. These details seem small, but together, they tell a story that words alone never could. Psychologists have long known that human communication goes far beyond spoken language. Every day, people reveal emotions through posture, facial expressions, eye contact, and tone of voice, often without realizing it. Your brain is constantly processing these signals in the background. That's why you've probably met someone who seemed perfectly friendly, yet something felt off. You couldn't explain it. There was no obvious reason to distrust them. But months later, after their true behavior surfaced, you realized your first impression had been right all along. It wasn't luck. Your mind had detected patterns before your conscious thoughts could turn them into words. Observation often arrives before explanation, and that's one of the hidden advantages of paying attention. Here's where things become even more interesting. Most people think influence comes from speaking well. In reality, influence begins with understanding well. Imagine two people walking into the same room. One immediately starts talking, eager to impress everyone. The other quietly watches how people interact. Who interrupts others? Who listens? Who seems confident? And who's only pretending? After just a few minutes, the observer understands the room in a way the talker never will. And because they understand people first, when they finally do speak, their words carry more weight. They aren't reacting. They're responding. That's a completely different kind of power. There's another reason observers are often misunderstood. From the outside, they can appear shy, slow, or hesitant. But inside, something very different is happening. Their minds are comparing, analyzing, and connecting information before reaching a conclusion. Think of it like watching two drivers approach a sharp turn. One slams the steering wheel without slowing down. The other eases off the accelerator, checks the road ahead, and chooses the safest path. Which one reaches the destination more consistently? In life, taking a moment to observe isn't a sign of fear. It's often a sign of control. The people who rush to speak usually respond to the moment. The people who observe first often respond to the truth. But observation has another hidden benefit that many people never realize. The more carefully you watch others, the more clearly you begin to see yourself. You notice the situations that trigger your emotions. You recognize patterns in your own decisions. You become aware of habits you never questioned before. That kind of self-awareness makes you harder to manipulate because you understand not only how other people behave, but also how your own mind works. And once you understand your own patterns, you're no longer reacting automatically to every opinion, criticism, or emotional situation. You begin choosing your responses instead of being controlled by them. Of course, observing more than you speak doesn't mean staying silent forever. Silence isn't the goal. Understanding is. There comes a moment when your voice matters, and when that moment arrives, speaking with intention is far more powerful than speaking out of habit. The people who make the greatest impact aren't always the ones with the loudest voices. They're often the ones who waited long enough to truly understand what needed to be said. So if you've ever felt overlooked because you're quiet, remember this. Noise attracts attention, but understanding earns respect. And in a world where almost everyone is desperate to be heard, the rarest advantage isn't having more to say. It's having the wisdom to notice what everyone else missed.